Hello, and welcome to Adapt of Chicago Productions. For 17 years, the television show devoted to disability issues. I'm Joel Margolis, your host, and with me today we have two very special guests, Mr. Mike Tellerino of the K9S For Veterans Training Center, and also a very faithful canine, Greta.
Yes.
Mike, I'd like to ask you, what exactly is the K9S For Veterans Training Center?
Well, K9 For Veterans Training Center was created to train service dogs for veterans that have PTSD.
Now, what exactly does a service dog do for someone who has PTSD?
Joel, it's an amazing gift what these dogs can provide for our veterans. They are trained to block for the veterans. In other words, if a veteran's in a crowded situation and he really doesn't like his space invaded, the dogs are trained to gently nudge that person away from our veteran so they don't feel like they're being, their space is being invaded. They're trained to retrieve things off the floor for them. They're trained to brace for them if they have a mobility issue. But most importantly, what I think is probably one of the best assets that these dogs can provide for a veteran is that our veterans come home with PTSD, they have night terrors, which is no more than a bad dream.
Like nightmares of
Exactly. Our dogs are trained to sense this when the veterans have this, and they're trained to wake them up from that night terror, so they don't have to spend time there. They bring them back to like now time, reality.
So while the person with PTSD is still asleep and experiencing night terror, as you call the nightmare, the dog can sense that?
Correct.
And then wakes up the sleeping vet, okay, so that they're not continue to be plagued by the
Exactly.
nightmare.
Most veterans, Joel, are afraid to go to sleep at night. They could be in a house full with people, and as long as everybody's up with them, they're okay. As soon as everybody in the house goes to sleep and they're left alone, their tendency to want to go to sleep is almost gone.
Because the fear of the
Fear
nightmare.
of going to that bad place. And when they have a service dog with them, they know if they do go to that night terror, that this dog's going to wake them up. Their service dog is going to wake them up from that.
And on a more general level, the service dog can provide a sense of companionship
Oh my God,
for
yes.
vets with PTSD?
They're their best friends. They go with them, trains, planes, buses, shopping, no matter where they go. It's a federal law that these dogs are trained and are certified to be a service dog. They can go anywhere with our veterans.
Now, you spoke about the mission of providing these dogs to vets who have PTSD. Do you sometimes have vets in your training center who have some other type of disability that also requires a service dog?
Yes, it's called TBI, traumatic brain injury.
That was traumatic brain injury?
They call it TBI, and it's where it's an infliction of their mobility issues, or they have a...
So this is a neurological problem?
Correct, and our dogs are trained to brace for them. Most of our guys that have TBI walk with a cane or very unsteady with their walking, so the dogs are provided with a special harness that if they do need some assistance getting out of a chair, there's a special handle that's made on the vest for them so they could use it to get up out of that chair, and the dogs are trained to steady them and brace for them.
Now, for those vets that suffer from this type of brain damage, do some of them also have problems retrieving physical objects and the like?
Yes, and our dogs are trained to pick things off the floor for them.
Pick things off the floor, retrieve things that are at a distance?
Get their keys off the table. Pick things off the floor. They won't go get a beer for you, though.
They won't. The dogs are strictly in a temperance mode.
Correct.
I understand. Now, how do these vets come to you? How do they find your center, and how do you find the vets?
Well, most of our vets come to us via the internet. We put out there, we have a website out there, which is K, the letter K, the number 9, the letter S, for Veterans NFP, which is not-for-profit.org.
K9S For Veterans NFP.org.
Correct. And on our website, it explains what we do, how we do it, and there's also an application that they have to fill out. Once they fill that application and send it to us, we have 3 veterans that are on our board of review that are veterans with PTSD that will review their application, go over everything with them. They'll interview them over the phone. They'll find out if, what they're expecting from a service dog. Some people have too many expectations from a service dog. And at that point, then we'll go do an in-home interview with them. And then we'll bring them out to the center to meet some of our service dogs to see which one they sort of bond with.
And in addition to finding enrollees for your center via the internet, do you do any outreach through veterans organizations?
Yes, we work with the VA constantly.
And you sometimes send someone out to speak at either an American Legion post or a VFW post?
We do that constantly. We want our veterans to know that there is help out there. Okay, I don't think we can get the word out there enough that there is hope. There is a place you could turn. That if you're going through PTSD, you don't have to go through it alone.
Now, after a vet applies to your center, and if they are accepted for training, what actually does the training consist of?
Well, first of all, we pull all our dogs from kill shelters, which in that case, we send our trainer out to the shelter and we test these dogs for their temperament. They have to have a certain temperament to fit into our program. If they should fit into our program, we'll then pull the dog from that shelter, we'll place them at our training center, and they'll train for about 4 months. They'll do basic, advanced training, and agility training for 4 months. Once they do that training, we'll then introduce them to a veteran that they're going to be assigned to. And that veteran will come in 3 days a week, minimum, to work one-on-one with that service dog.
And are the dogs drawn from a variety of different breeds or a fairly narrow range of breeds?
You know what? Again, it's not a breed-specific thing that we look for. We look for temperament. Look at Greta. Greta's about as relaxed as you can get.
And Greta, in terms of breed, is a German Shepherd?
German Shepherd, and her color is called a purebred. Her color is a sable. But typically, this is, what a service dog does. It's just there, it's with you.
Now, operating a center like this, is not something that comes without costs,
Not at all.
Where do you get the funding to operate the center?
Well, let me start at the beginning, I have one of our guys that are on our director, Sam. He worked for this company that had a huge building on Roosevelt and Central. Sam went in there and asked them if they had any space that they'd like to help donate to K9 For Veterans so we could open this training center.
Well, this building is at Roosevelt and Central on the west side of Chicago.
Right, 5430 West Roosevelt. So they told Sam, yeah, we got this location, but we're really the space. We're really not sure you could use it. So we went and looked at it. And it had some nice office space, but there was nothing in the building. It was just cinder block walls. No running water, no toilets, nothing. It was
a huge empty box?
Yeah, huge empty box. So
and about how many square feet is the building?
It's just under 7,000 square feet.
Sizable.
Yeah, so we thought, okay, now what do we do? That we have it, they gave it to us and donated the space to us at no cost. So one of our vice president, Reggie Latuca, went to Home Depot and said they were looking, maybe they could donate some paint so we could just paint the offices. They asked us why we were going to do what we were doing. Reggie told them that we were opening a training center. They said, well, let's come out, maybe we'll take a look at it. So Home Depot came out and they said, you know what, we could take this on as a project for our veterans. So they did an extreme makeover for us, from floor to ceiling, front to back. Put kennels in, put a state-of-the-art kitchen in, put a bathroom in.
All done at the expense of
Home Depot.
So instead of having to apply to 20 different foundations,
just one.
It was just one,
Just
and
one.
they agreed to fund it, and
It
they
was a gift
honored
that
their promise.
couldn't be even believed at the time when we received it. And the best part is that they worked and they knew exactly what they wanted to do for our service dogs. They matched the color. They did research on the colors that they were going to use for the facility.
Because colors make a difference
Sure.
in terms of the dogs?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's an amazing job they did. And now we have a place where we can train our service dogs. Our center is open 24 hours a day to our veterans that could come in anytime, day or night. Come in, have a cup of coffee, they could sit, talk to their dog, they could take their dog for a walk.
Now, you also have special events that are fundraisers?
We just had a month ago, we had an event where we presented 11 service dogs to 11 veterans. We had 536 people attend our event.
And you say presented the dogs to the veterans. That makes it sound as if the dogs were a gift.
Yes.
The vets do not pay for these
It's
dogs?
100% free to the veteran. Not only is it free to the veteran, we provide free food for the life of that dog, so the veterans don't have to worry about food. And we also supply the medical needs for that dog for the life of that dog as well.
Now, does the Veterans Administration offer you any help in this regard?
Not at all.
No, they
Not at
have
all.
made no contribution.
No, in fact, a few years ago, the VA had a program where they were actually providing service dogs to veterans. After about, I think it was about a year or two, what they decided that it had no clinical value, which is crazy because anyone who's seen what a service dog can do for a veteran that has PTSD will be the first one to tell you that it makes a difference between night and day in our veterans. But the VA stopped it because they said there was no clinical value to it.
So
figure.
when the VA stopped it, they were not willing to provide any financial
No,
help?
none whatsoever.
Okay. Now, does that mean, therefore, that in addition to the one paid trainer, you have volunteers doing a variety of different tasks?
Yes, cleaning kennels, walking the dogs, cleaning the training center, answering calls. Like I said, our center is open 24 hours a day to our veterans.
Now, your center is located at Roosevelt near Central Avenue. I believe it's the South Austin neighborhood.
It's the old Sunbeam building.
Okay. And that's on the west side of Chicago, but do your veterans come to you primarily from the west side and the western suburbs?
Not at all. We've got guys, we've got veterans coming in from Colorado, the East Coast, California, wherever. We don't say you have to be from Chicago to get a service dog.
And those who come in from out of town, where do they stay during the training?
Well, they come in. If they're out of town, what they do is they'll come in, they'll stay for a week at a hotel, and then they'll train with their dog. They'll come back in a month later, stay for a week, and train with their dog. What we're doing now, Joe, is the Village of Lyons just donated a building to us in Lyons, 5,000 square feet. And what it is, it's going to be a building just for an outreach center. It's to help veterans find a job. It's to help them teach computer skills. It's to prepare them for interviews. We'll be able to give them rides from and to the VA for their medical appointments. It's however we could assist the veterans in any way we can. At that facility, there's going to be 3 rooms that our veterans that come in from out of state will be able to stay at that facility and stay there and then do their training at the training center.
Like a small-scale bed and breakfast.
Exactly. This way, again, there's no cost to the veteran.
Now, those veterans that live someplace in the 6-county metropolitan Chicago area, do most of them come to you by automobile?
Yes.
Are the majority of them able to drive there themselves?
Yes, and we have some that take Uber.
Okay, so they come to you in a variety of different
Right.
modes. Okay. Now, all of this involves an enormous amount of work on your part. Okay. Have you been primarily a volunteer?
I've been a volunteer since day one.
Completely a volunteer?
Completely a volunteer. Everyone, from our vice president, Reggie Latuca, to our board of directors, to our directors that oversee the whole operation, everyone's a volunteer.
Now, this represents an enormous amount of work on your part. Where in the world did you develop such an intense commitment to this particular not-for-profit cause? What is your own background that led you into this?
Well, Joel, originally I started out as the founder and CEO of an organization called PAWS Illinois. Which is
Pause.
PAWS, P-A-W-S, Illinois. It's a 501c3, not-for-profit organization. We would foster and rescue. It was a home-based foster operation, and we would rescue dogs from shelters and find homes for them. Well, I decided that I wanted to really do something to try to help our veterans that were coming back from serving our country. So we were getting food from Natural Balance pet food. So we said, well, let's just give these veterans free food for their service dogs or even cats, just because they served our country, just something to give back to them. So we started that program. It was called Pets for Vets. Well, after doing that and meeting some of these veterans that had service dogs and listening to their story, telling me the difference that it made in their life, it actually, most of them will tell you, if it wasn't for my service dog, I'd either be dead or in jail. That's the difference they made. So after getting to meet these guys and seeing what these dogs truly meant to them, I just felt there's something I wanted to do. So I got together with our board of directors and we decided that we were going to start a separate 501c3 specifically for veterans with PTSD to provide them service dogs.
And the founding of PAWS, okay, did that come out of some special experiences you had as a veteran?
You know, I've always been an animal advocate. I've always rescued animals, horses, dogs, whatever I could. And again, it's just a feeling of giving something back. And if you remember, back at the time, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, when people were just going through some hard times, the housing market crashed, people didn't know what to do with their service, with their dogs. They were just bringing them and dropping them off at shelters. So I figured, you know what, if we could stop that, if people had a way to feed their dogs and not have to worry about some basic medical care, they can keep these dogs at home rather than putting them in a shelter, because they couldn't afford the food, they couldn't afford the medical, and that's what was happening. They would just take them to the shelter and say, look, I can't afford to feed my family, let alone my dog, and I can't take care of the medical, so I don't want to be unfair to dogs. So they were the impression, if they brought it to the shelter, that the shelter was going to find this perfect home for that dog, when in reality, chances are that dog was going to be euthanized within 90 days from when it hit the shelter.
Now, as someone who has a special concern for animals, it's no surprise that you became involved in this type of effort. But in addition to that, you are a vet yourself.
Yes.
What branch of the service did you serve?
I was in the Army Reserves.
In the Army Reserves.
Yeah.
And did you have some particular experiences in the Army Reserves that in some way highlighted the needs of vets to you?
You know what? I've seen guys that were coming home from serving our country, and you know, it was just ridiculous what they weren't receiving from the VA. You know, and it's always been a need that, you know, we've got these guys willing to go over there and put their life on the line and not ask for anything in return, but yet when they do come home, there's nothing for them. They get absolutely nothing. There's nothing for these guys. They're so overlooked. It's just a shame.
So you felt there were real needs on the parts of
Without
vets?
a doubt.
Okay. And you yourself saw a number of cases where there was a dramatic level of need?
Joel, I've talked to some veterans before they get their service dog that no one should have went through what they went through. And then not only to go through that, but not to get the help when you come home. You know, most of these guys, when they come home with PTSD, their families aren't prepared for the person that's coming home.
Not prepared in what way, Mike?
They don't know what to expect. You know, PTSD is so misunderstood, Joel, because you can't see. It's not a disease you could see. I shouldn't use the word disease. It's not an affliction that you could see, okay? So if you can't see it, people don't understand it. They you know, well, what's wrong with him? He's okay. He's walking. He's talking. They don't understand the horrors that this guy is facing internally. And that's the part that I think really upsets me the most, is that people don't fully understand what PTSD is.
And it was your perception of that that played no small role in your involvement in these efforts.
100%. I just felt that I really, after meeting these veterans with PTSD and talking to ones that had the PTSD and didn't have a service dog, I just felt that I wanted everyone who had PTSD to know what it was like to have a Greta in their life.
Now, clearly, in seeing vets with PTSD, you saw some unmet needs in their lives, and that led you to work intensively with veterans. But as a result of that, have you found other needs amongst veterans that you feel are sometimes not recognized by the general public?
You know, our veterans are so misunderstood when they come home from the service with PTSD. The VA, in my opinion, this is my opinion, just feels that it's easier to keep them sedated than it is to get them the help that they need.
Keep them sedated?
Sedated. I've got guys that are on 17 different pills a day. After they've had a service dog, they're down to 3 or 4. That's the marked difference that these dogs could make. But again, I think that the VA should prepare the families of these veterans that are coming home what to expect from their returning spouse.
Now,
that they're not the same person that left.
What exactly should be done when you say prepare? Do these families need to be sensitized in some way?
Yes, they need to have some counseling to learn that their behavior is going to be erratic. They're going to have mood swings. They're not the same person that they were when they left.
And in addition to the problems associated with PTSD, okay, have you seen other needs on the parts of vets that you feel are unmet?
You know, job skills. Okay, when a veteran fills out an application, he's been in the service for 6 years. How does he relate to filling out that application that's going to equate to the last 6 years of experience he had in the military? Great leadership skills? How do you translate that into an application that, you know, a prospective employer is going to look at and say, boy, you're a great candidate? So we need to prepare these guys that are coming home how to go about getting back into a normal life.
And do you think that better preparation could do something to lower the unemployment rate amongst veterans?
Oh, God, yes. You know, we have a program, it's to teach veterans how to use basic computer skills. It's to teach them, we're going to prep them for their initial interviews. We have a company called Bridge to Success that works with us that will take these veterans out and prepare them for the interview and provide them with a complete wardrobe, shoes, socks, shirts, everything, to go on that interview, to get them ready so they look good, they feel good about
So
themselves.
You're saying that something as basic as interviewing for a job, there are many vets who lack those interviewing skills?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you think there also are unmet needs in terms of vets' information about the labor markets?
You know what, I think the whole thing is that, Joel, is that the VA is not putting enough information out there on the services that are offered to our veterans. I think they need to, you know, it's even like a service dog, okay? The VA doesn't put it out there. There's not enough attention given to PTSD and the effects that it has. We're actually building a memorial wall in Shanahan State Park.
Where is that, Mike?
It's right outside of Joliet. What it is we worked with the governor, who was really incredible about working with us. It's going to be 5 pillars, 1 for each branch of service, and a center piece, and it's all going to be for the veterans who lost a battle to PTSD. So finally, someone
lost the battle.
Lost the battle. It's going to be.
What does that mean in concrete
They committed
terms?
suicide.
Veterans who committed suicide.
Right. This is going to be a
because of their
memorial
mental
for them.
problems.
Correct. It's going to be a memorial for them.
Now, I think this touches on a subject that we don't hear much about in the general press. You're saying there's a certain percentage of the PTSD victims who are so untreated or so underserved that they drift into a suicidal depression?
Right. What it is, what they claim that 22 veterans a day commit suicide.
Let's make sure we understand that correctly. In the nation as a whole, 22 veterans a day commit suicide?
And that's the VA statistics, not ours. Okay? But let me tell you, let me just add a little side note to that. That is not including the veterans that come home that do not want to register for their benefits because they don't want the stigma that's attached to PTSD.
So in addition to treating the PTSD itself, we have a very real problem in helping to sensitize the vets and educate the public
Correct.
to destigmatize the PTSD?
Yes.
Well, it sounds to me as if there's quite a work yet to be done in this field.
Yes, there is.
Okay. I think, however, our viewers today have learned that you and those working with you at K9s For Veterans are already doing quite a bit. For those who would like more information, they can go to your website.
Yes.
And that is the letter K,
The number
the
9.
number 9, FOR,
Letter S.
Veterans.
K, the letter K and the number 9, the letter S, FOR, Veterans, NFP.org.
.org.
Or they
Okay.
can call us.
And what is your telephone number?
773-854-1000.
773-854-1000. And there will always be someone there
Yep.
to give information about
Yep.
your center and what it does.
And if they know a veteran that needs help, have them contact us. Have them come in, meet these other veterans that have PTSD.
Well, I think our viewers have learned a great deal today about
Good.
your remarkable efforts. I want to thank you for
It
coming
was my
in.
pleasure, Joe. My pleasure.
And it's been more than a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Greta,
Greta?
okay, for coming in today. Greta, thank you for your participation in this experience.
Well, I can say that as K9, we have helped up to 20 veterans. We have 10 dogs currently being trained. I can only say that from the beginning when we have our veterans with us who do not speak or do not want to go out, once we give them the dog and they start working with them, they're a whole totally different person. So that is the joy we get in helping them.
I know one of the most wonderful things I've heard is that a vet who is sleeping and has a bad dream, you know, he's been, who knows what's going on, you know, and the dog will wake him up. How do you get a dog to do that?
Well, it's all about creating that bond. It's all about that dog understanding when they are sensing that their veteran is trembling in bed or talking in their sleep or screaming in their sleep or crying in their sleep. The dogs becomes very sensitive to that, and that will make them wake them up, lick their face, and comfort them.
Retired Corporal Patrick Phillips, United States Marine Corps. I was attached to Regimental Combat Team 5. This is my service dog, Marsoc. She's currently in training to be my PTSD service dog.
Hi, this is Mike Tellerigo with K9 Veterans. How can I help you? Yes. What you would do initially, you would fill out an application online at K9 For Veterans, NFP.org.